All right, let's see here. Yep, we got people coming on. Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. It's Monday, February 6th. And this is our weekly crypto mastermind call. Thank you for joining us. Greg. All right, Greg's first in the, Yoshi isn't around.
Yoshi's got to be around somewhere.
Yeah, he's got to be around somewhere. He just, Flagstaff. Yeah, okay, there's Yoshi. Okay.
Yeah, Yoshi, Coinbase stock. It really was the biggest, as we talked about in this call, it really was the biggest beneficiary of the FTX collapse. People were like, I'm not fooling around with the Bahamas anymore. I want solid, steady Coinbase.
Yeah.
And DeFi, like, look, that all the DeFi things that we own are up. I mean, our double down recommendations on DYDX, Phantom, Pancake, they're all like positive or doing well. Uniswap.
Yeah, looking at the portfolio, renders up. Renders at the top, it looks like.
It renders up 360%.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
It's just, I mean, it's 4.5 times higher than when we got into it.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people on here. Sarah and Rick, Dave from Brooklyn, Gina from Santa Monica, California. That sounds nice, doesn't it? It just sounds nice.
So many people are from nice places. We have Newport Beach, Santa Monica.
Yeah. Belgium. We got a
Belgium. I'll go with Belgium being nice.
Yeah.
London, I'm going to visit in September.
Vegas.
It's your brother.
Actually, that's somebody else. It's Chris from Vegas. But anyway, nothing's wrong with Brooklyn, Dave. Everything's fine. We're just Santa Monica, Brooklyn. I have my preference, but I'm sure everyone else has their own. So welcome. Thank you all.
Nothing wrong with Brooklyn. Although in general, I prefer being in warmer. Me personally, I prefer being warmer.
Yeah, especially this time of year. It gets a little rough. My parents live in Hampton, New Hampshire, and it was negative 31 degree wind chill on, I think it was Saturday night or Friday night. I'm not sure which. I think it was Saturday night. It was, and Mount Washington hit negative 101 degrees wind chill.
Negative?
Yep, the coldest it's ever been, I think, in like 60 years or something. Don't quote me on that, but it's, it's pretty chilly.
Yeah.
So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to get started here. We have a lot of questions from people leading up to this call on Phantom. So we're going to ping Chris and James about that specifically today, and as well as go through the rest of your questions. But first, let's start with James, because James, you got an email last night. You want to kind of talk about what's going on in crypto world for you?
Yeah. So, I've mentioned before on this call that, sometimes we look around in the United States and it's hard to see, well, where's crypto? What's crypto doing? But then you see in the other parts of the world, wherever the currency is a bit shaky, the countries have been adopting crypto pretty quickly. And that's most of the users, I would say, let's say there's a couple 100 million users of crypto right now. I would say a big chunk of them are outside the US. And in the UK right now, we have a new prime minister who's very crypto friendly, and they're very quickly operating. It seems like the UK, and I mentioned before, Dubai, are in a race to see who could be the country that's the center of all things crypto, in terms of good regulation, good banking, good exchanges, and very crypto friendly. So I got an email yesterday. It looks like it's not totally confirmed. We're kind of negotiating, but looks like I'll be going to Dubai on Friday for the week to basically talk to different people in the government about crypto and DeFi and all things going on in crypto. I'm speaking to a bunch of different organizations and groups within the government and so on. So I won't be here next week, but I'll be in Dubai, basically finding out and what's going on around the world with crypto and talking to a lot of people. So that will be, good for us. and I'll learn a lot, and hopefully I have something to teach as well.
Well, we should see if we can get that live streamed.
I
So that
wonder,
all of our,
there's one fireside chat that I'm doing, and then I'm giving a couple of talks.
yeah.
If it's all confirmed, I'm asking for, I'm having my hand out a little bit. So,
Yeah.
so we'll
Well,
see.
that's a big deal to fly halfway around the globe, and for for you traveling and stuff. Just
Yeah,
your
I don't really like traveling at all. So that's when I'm missing some things here. So, I'm just making sure that it's all good, and it's worth
yeah,
going to.
yeah. Well, that's really exciting, James. I mean, when we first started getting into crypto in 2017 or so, you're like, governments are going to start adopting these things, and we've seen it happen in some South America countries. But it's also interesting to see where these events are being held and who is actually interested in figuring out, well, how can we employ this for our economy or our country?
Yeah, I mean, the Middle East in general has been very interested in crypto because it's also a vehicle for getting money out of the Middle East. But Dubai is a little different because Dubai's been kind of a much more modern in terms of their banking system and financial system. So they've been focused on basically being a center of crypto as opposed to just focusing on getting money out of the country. But meanwhile, you have other countries in Africa, South America, Asia that are adopting crypto because their own currencies are failing. So there's a lot going on, and it just underlines we always talk about use cases, and I've listed some kind of more extensive, what I consider multi-trillion-dollar use cases. But the basic use case is transferring money quickly with low fees and being able to trade anything, not just cryptos, but stocks, cryptos, real estate, bonds, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So these are two major problems that the banking system has that no one has solved yet, but crypto solves automatically. So right there is just a basic, huge use case. And then other use cases we've talked about here are much more niche and sophisticated, but it's got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Well, good luck on your negotiation. Hopefully you can make that trip and it makes sense. And if you can record it, I don't know how you would do that, but that'd be great if we could get access to those recordings.
Yeah, I'll see what I could do.
Okay. Chris, how are you, sir? Everything good in your world?
Doing well. Yeah.
Good
Just
to
trying to keep up with everything.
hear.
Crypto market has not slowed down at all.
No, we'll take that over what's been happening over the last 12 or 14 months or so.
Yes.
I mean,
absolutely.
and the thing is, the economy has become impossible to predict because on the one hand, unemployment is at a 50-year low. On the other hand, there are layoffs happening. On the one hand, everyone's saying recession because of the rate hikes. On the other hand, the economy is estimated to have grown about 3% after inflation this past year, and it's projected for 3% for the next year. On the one hand, manufacturing is way down. On the other hand, we have, prices are going up. There's inflation, prices are going up. So it's a very impossible economy to predict. But I think that's a good thing, because if it was too easy to predict right now, maybe the Fed would be, the Fed right now basically has to lay off and figure out what's going on. And that gives stocks and crypto an opportunity to really move up.
Yeah. Well, I think regardless of what happens here, economically speaking, it's clear, and you've said this all along, James, that it's in recessions, it's in bear markets where the work gets done. And I never really understood what that meant. Instead of chasing what the next hot, crypto is, these guys are just building away and not promoting themselves, but just building stuff. And it seems like now that we're potentially coming out of the other side of it, it's like, okay, well, now these projects are really starting to gain momentum, and people can see beyond like the terrifying stock market, drops of 10-15% in a couple of weeks. So anyway, I don't know. It just seems like things are moving in our direction once again.
Yeah, and I mean, the good thing is that we've been in a bear market these past 14 months. And we were able to do not only recommendations initially, but then we did a double down recommendations in June. Those are all up nicely. We did double down recommendations in December. We did Coinbase recommendations in June and December. All of our Coinbase picks, almost all of them, are in the green. You know, Quant is up to over 200%, Polygon's up over 200%, Numeraire's up 100%. Then we've got Render, our double down recommendations of 360%. So even though the crypto market is still down about 60% since we started, we're actually up right now as a portfolio. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And that's why you invest in bear markets. That's why, you know, it's good to start when things are low.
Yeah, Warren Buffett knows something about that. Jeremy asked something in the chat. I just want to make sure. It seems like Jeremy's frustrated by not getting an answer. So let's do that right now. Should we avoid the Binance exchange or just the token? Chris, I know you have a specific take on this. James, maybe you can weigh in as well.
Yeah, so last week there was some confusion about whether or not we were talking about the token and the exchange. We were mainly talking about the token, but we've always said if you're going to buy anything on anything except Coinbase, basically, it's fine to use it. Just don't keep a lot of funds on the exchanges. And Binance is included in that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, everything's going to happen on DeFi exchanges. And if you're using a centralized exchange, Coinbase is our favorite, but Binance is you know, given they're kind of in the mud, slinging it out with FTX, I would try to stay clear from Binance as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And Binance is also pausing US dollar transfers this week, just in case you are in the US. So that came from Sarah. So, all right, well, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and fire off some of these questions to you guys. I'm just going to go through this spreadsheet that I have over on this computer over here. So apologize for not looking at the camera. Chris, so the first one here is from Reed. Chris, thank you for the link regarding the FTM, the phantom migration. Based on what you wrote, if we're just holding FTM long-term with no plans to use the FTM DeFi protocol, meaning not staking it, then it's just fine to leave FTM on the Ethereum blockchain and not migrate to the FTM mainnet, correct?
Yeah, if you would rather just keep it, you have it like in a hardware wallet or somewhere safe, and you'd rather just keep it there and it's on Ethereum, that's fine. Because if you're not using it, then it doesn't make any difference really. And there's just as much liquidity on Ethereum as there is Phantom. So it's perfectly okay.
Okay, great. That's a good one to start off with because it was a very straightforward and positive answer. I like that. Suzanta wants to know if Render is still a buy. We still have that as a buy on our portfolio, correct?
Yes. And
Yeah.
we did a double down. So again, it's great that it's up 360% right now, but you're not going to make money in crypto by taking just 300% returns. The story is the same. It's a huge use case, Render, which cannot be solved by computers. It's impossible for Render's problem, the problem that Render solves, to be solved by just regular computers. So it's only just at the beginning of being used. As far as I know, there's no real competitor. It's being used by companies like Sony, Disney, which is why it's not in the news. It's not like all this AI stuff, which consumers are using. And so you see it in the news every day. Render's just being used by industry professionals to render videos and 3D scenes and metaverses and so on. So Render potentially, you know, could go up 30,000%, not just 300%.
Yeah, it's just a matter of like, if we were a trading service and we made 300% on a short-term trade, that might be something that we would, close out because that's in a short amount of time, but we're playing the long game here. And so we're trying to get you in the best coins we can that could go up 50 or 100x. We've got another FTM question here, Chris. Thanks for last week's email update. This is from Peter. I really enjoyed it. And hopefully this is an easily answered question about Phantom. If Phantom is staked on the Binance exchange, do you think we'd have to migrate coins, or should it have been done for me by Binance? Is there a way to find out if it hasn't been done?
Yeah, so as far as I understand, Binance specifically, I don't know about any other exchange, but Binance definitely migrated everything. So one of the things that you could do is, in the past, I don't know about anymore, is go on to Binance, deposit your coins, and when you take them out, they're on the Phantom chain. One way to check that is when you withdraw on Binance, it will tell you what chain it's on. So it should be very clear as to where you're sending it, either Ethereum or Phantom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if Peter is on this call, but hopefully that answers his question. Okay, we got another question here about taxes. When importing transactions into crypto tax software, what is the risk of using any API if it is read only? So that's question number one. So let's tackle that one first. Any risks using APIs, read only?
Yeah, when I talked about doing it, I said I only use Coinbase. That's just a personal preference. I don't think there's a huge risk. I wouldn't do it with smaller exchanges just because I don't trust them, because you are giving up a certain amount of private information. But if it's read only, there shouldn't be any risk. But we're also talking about, like, how much do you trust the exchange?
Yeah.
They're not able to get the crypto tax software has no access to your funds regardless. But you could be opening yourself up to a hack potentially with some smaller exchanges.
Okay.
That's at least the way that I look at it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good advice. You would think read only, you're like, okay, should be okay, but that's a good question. So are there any crypto applications in the medical records fields that you're evaluating? So let's not name any, because we're not going to talk about coins that we don't recommend, but from a use case perspective, James, which I know that you're big on, in identifying opportunities in different industries that are set for disruption. What do you think about the medical records side industry? Are there any coins? Yeah.
It's a great question, because there's several levels to it. One is, wouldn't it be great if you go to one doctor and all your information is available on a database, and then you go to another doctor and you could give them access to that information, and they all communicate with each other to solve whatever your issues are? Just that use case alone, people have been trying to work on for 40 or 50 years, and the medical industry is just a data mess. Like, maybe it gets better sometimes, but it's just a mess. You have to call your doctor and they have to fax records. So they're not even up to speed on just using the internet to transmit data. Now they're getting better, but it's still a mess. Yes, it would all be great if it was all on blockchain, and that would solve a big problem. And we are looking at those use cases, but I just don't think it's ready yet. The industry is just not there.
To second that, my girlfriend's sister's husband works at a medical record company. I forget the name of it, but he told me this over the holidays, that they have a blockchain service. They have thousands of clients, and they only have one client using the blockchain service. So it's almost like the industry is not ready for anything like this. They're so far behind. And yeah, like James said, the data is so fragmented that they're just playing catch up. They're just constantly stuck in the paper mode of everything.
Most of the tokens we're recommending are really what we've been saying for a while, they're picks and shovels. They're building up the whole crypto / financial ecosystem. Specific use cases like Render, those are great, and we happen to hit a good one with Render, but other ones like Quant or QNT or Phantom that we've been talking about, or Uniswap or all of these Pocket, these are real picks and shovels plays that are helping to build the ecosystem, and they're going to do the best first because the ecosystem needs to be built and strong before the rest of the use cases start to be more common.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find the picks and shovels ones. Again, there's no news about these things. You have to really dig and research to find them.
Yeah, interesting. Russ just said the HIPAA privacy fines start at 50 grand. So doctors are very nervous about changing their systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's little incentive to change. That's the other problem.
Okay. So, all right, we've got a beginner member here, and let's see, it's Mark, and Mark's confused regarding about last week's Phantom information. Do I need to move Phantom coins currently held on Coinbase and Kraken to the native FTM chain, or do I just leave them on the DEX? So what's your take there?
Yeah, so you don't have to do anything. We were just getting a ton of questions about the migration. So I'm assuming that some people want to stake or use the decentralized exchange in some capacity. So that was for them. If you don't plan on doing any of that, you can safely do nothing and keep it wherever it's at.
Okay. Yeah, so, and that answers his question, why would I want or need to move them? If you wanted to stake them, for example, right? Okay. Let's see here. We just answered that one. Okay, so here's another Phantom question. How do I tell if my Phantom address, how do I tell by looking at my Phantom address if Phantom is on the Ethereum or FTM blockchain? You mentioned that when you transfer them out, you'll be able to see. Is there a way to look at it without transferring the coin?
I actually think that's the best way right now. If you're on the Phantom blockchain, you're going to know because you're not going to be using any conventional wallet like MetaMask. If you're using MetaMask, it's on Ethereum. So it's pretty clear what chain you're on by what wallets you're using. So if you're using Opera wallet or something specifically for Phantom. So in short, if you haven't migrated, if you haven't done anything with it, it's probably on Ethereum. And if you have, then then you would already know that it's on Phantom.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I think so. It does to me. So we have another person here, Steve, looking for help on MetaMask. What's the best way to learn about MetaMask? Should people just Google stuff to figure out, okay, how do I use it? There are hundreds of YouTube videos. I can find one. I'll put it in the chat and I'll include it in the weekly update for anybody. But yeah, MetaMask. There's thousands of people that have done it better than I can do it. So, okay,
but I'll find a good one.
All right. I'm just going through the chat here, see if there are any questions that John is trying to get information on Celsius, but no one is able to answer. Do we know what's going on with Celsius in that saga?
I think no, I haven't heard anything. I think 2023 is going to be the year of bankruptcy updates. There's still a lot going on behind the scenes, and Celsius is one of them. I think Voyager and there's tons. I'd like to do an update on all of that as well, probably next week. But we're still waiting.
I mean, a lot of it depends on how much money they recover from FTX. But, the good thing is they know where all the money went. So it's just a matter of getting the money back. I'll note that with Madoff, which was this huge thing, everybody got their initial money back. I think it was like 99 cents on the dollar. Now, if people had gains on paper, they didn't get that back because that was all fake. But their initial investments, many people got back. And I kind of expect that a similar thing will happen here, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, the Madoff thing was like $20 billion or something. It was big at the time.
Yeah, it was $60 billion, but like let's say 8 billion was what was actually put in the fund, and I believe most of that 8 billion, if not all of it, was recovered.
Okay.
Someone asked if we ever recommended SNX synthetics. We did recommend that on January 13th. That's one of our positions that's up 44% right now, but expect it to go a lot more. So we did recommend that.
I see some questions here. Tanya says, I see some questions on I Trust Capital. Did you guys talk about it already? House security or trust with Trust Capital? We haven't talked about that today, but I personally use it. And the reason I chose I Trust Capital was because it had low fees and it had had a fair number of coins that they were continually adding to it. I think it was Business Insider did an article about the different crypto IRAs that you could choose from, and I Trust Capital came in as the low cost provider, low fees and stuff like that. So but there are a number of them out there. I've read some things about how they handle capital and that sort of things and how safe they are. It's hard to get an answer on some of those things, but it's that I have an IRA there, so I don't know what that tells you, but certainly something after looking into it that I decided was a fair shake. So
Is iTrust the one that uses Coinbase custody, or is that something else?
no, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
All right, so we got a couple more questions here. One from Ernie. How will AI play a role in crypto and blockchain? James, do you want to tackle that one? And I know you've been talking a lot about AI lately. What's its role in crypto, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unclear. We've been looking for like AI-based tokens to recommend. Numeraire is roughly one of those. The kind of AI that ChatGPT does is very unrelated to crypto. So ChatGPT basically, you could imagine it's software that it read the entire internet, and then when you type new words into ChatGPT, it figures out for each word what is the most statistically likely word to come next. And so that's how ChatGPT roughly works. And crypto doesn't have an equivalent, but there are uses of AI in crypto, and we're still looking into what might be interesting tokens there. So it's a little too early to say, but we're looking at it.
Yeah. I can't go anywhere.
I mean, AI is used a little bit in terms of figuring out when validations are when transactions are fraudulent or not. And some of our cryptos are involved in that. How much you want to call that AI versus statistics, I don't know, but there's a fine line there, but or there's a gray area there, but we're looking into it.
Yeah, I mean, AI is all over. Every time I open up my little news aggregator app on my phone, there's 5 articles on something about AI.
Well, let me ask you guys, what has anyone used AI yet for an actual purpose, as opposed to just, it's fun to talk to ChatGPT and it's kind of cool, but has anyone used it for anything? And I'm not skeptical of AI. I do think there are many use cases, but I'm just curious among the audience. So Judy used it to write a blog. Someone used it for Jasper for making marketing materials. Okay, Pamela's using it also with Jasper. I just found one AI site. I think it's called iQuit, where an AI will write your job resignation letter for you.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a very specific purpose.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
AI has been used forever to kind of read legal documents, and it's probably better now than it was before.
Yeah, look at that. I saw someone using it for calculating muzzle velocity. Who was that? Andy. Muzzle velocity prediction. Wow, look at this. All right. Yeah. You guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I think my
Yeah.
internet's stable today, so I apologize for that.
The screen has been a little choppy, but otherwise you're good.
Okay.
So there was
Go ahead.
one question that kept popping up that got lost in the mix about hardware wallets. Somebody asked, if you use a hardware wallet like a Trezor and accidentally destroy it, you can just buy a new one and refill your coins with the same seed phrase. So yeah, that's a good question. Seed phrase is the most important thing. So you can lose the hardware wallet and it'd be locked and lost somewhere, and you can recover it on a new device without any problems. So the hardware device itself isn't really the most important thing. It's just as long as you keep that seed phrase safe, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, the software trumps the hardware in this case, huh?
Yes, yeah. Always in crypto.
Can you have a hardware wallet with online redundancy? That's from Eckert.
With online, well, preferably you'd what keeps it, why they call it cold is because you generate the seed phrase offline. So if I'm assuming that's what they mean by online redundancy, ideally you wouldn't have it online at all. So
Yeah, okay. You can do it, but it's not as safe.
yeah, that's the difference between a hot and a cold wallet. I think that's the main difference.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting more frustration from people on Celsius. Will investors be reimbursed? Does anyone know anything about that?
Yeah, again, I haven't heard much by way of Celsius.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this is what I was addressing earlier, where we're not going to really know a lot in the next 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, week. A lot of it depends on the fallout from FTX. There's still kind of forensic accounting happening on where that money is, where it's going, and Celsius is related to that.
Yeah, if the information is not there to be had, it's hard for anyone to disseminate it, I guess. What Bob wants to know, how do I unstake my ETH2 on Coinbase?
Yeah, so that's actually going to happen, I think, speculative. It's March when the Shanghai update comes online. So that's anybody that has staked ETH2. There are people who have had their ETH staked for 2 years and it's been locked up. So they're still waiting to withdraw. But if you staked on Coinbase, it's locked up until at least March. But Coinbase does provide basically an Ethereum derivative called, I think it's STETH, that you can trade. You can get out of. It's like a liquid staking thing where you can trade out of your ETH without actually trading the ETH. And you can get out of your position that way if you want to.
And STE trades for the same amount as Ethereum. Is that the idea?
Yeah. So it's a way to make Ethereum, staked Ethereum, liquid. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So the short answer is you're probably not able to do that until March unless you were to go STE route to get unstaked, essentially.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. I think I got all the questions here in the doc over here, Chris. I didn't miss any, did I, that you noticed?
No, I don't think so.
We're getting questions. Val wants to know, do we have any double downs today to share, or are we where do we stand? Do we have anything to offer on the double down side, or are we waiting until next phase or next issue?
Yeah, we haven't talked about doing any more double downs
Yeah.
lately. We're focusing on AI. There's some interesting coins being released this year that we're looking at, that are all revolved around Ethereum scalability, that I think are going to be, at the very least, have relevant hype cycles. Yeah, I think AI and scalability are going to be the major themes, at least for the first 2 quarters.
Okay.
So yeah, we're trying to get ahead of the curve on those. But yeah, I don't know, James, what do you think about double downs?
Yeah, I mean, our philosophy on double downs was a little bit was twofold. A, look at what the best coins were and simply double them down, whether they were up or down. And then we spent a lot of time looking at the ones that were down more than 90% that are going to exist 5 years from now. Because if it's down more than 90%, but it'll still be around 5 years from now, it's a good double down. An example of that was Network, which is and net VRK. It's down 96% from our initial recommendation. So we recommended a double down, and that double down is up 50%. So, if that goes a little bit more, we'll actually be break even on that at some point. At some point, it's got to go up a lot more than this, but we're trying as best as possible to make 2023 like a great year. So we're looking at double downs, we're looking at new coins, anything that we're interested in returns first, crypto second. I hate to say it that way, but we want everybody here to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Whether it's a double down or a new coin or whatever. Now, the only reason we do any double downs at all is because these are the coins we're most familiar with, and we started out as believers in all of them. So we're constantly looking to see which ones are here for the long run still.
I think that's a good point. And we're not going to offer up double downs just to do it, right? It's got to be the right scenario. Things have to line up just right. Market has a question here. It's getting to be close to tax time. Has anyone spoken of the new tax implications and policies that the IRS is pushing? It's brutal, but hey, if you make money, paying to the government isn't all that bad. So what do we know about the SEC and the IRS, and what are we doing? And the implications for taxable transactions in crypto space?
So I don't know about you, James, but I haven't heard anything screaming new about the crypto stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. We could research that for next week, but it is getting to be tax time. So, all I know is that, we've all experienced losses this year. I experienced losses. So what I did, since there's no wash sale rules, is that at the end of the year, I sold all my crypto, and then a second later, I bought it back just to be able to take the loss on my taxes.
And there's no 31 day?
No, that's just with stocks, not crypto.
Okay. All right.
Again, consult your accountant on that, but that's what I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't. I have losses in my accounts, and I didn't do anything with them. Partly because I'm lazy. That's a big thing. I'm lazy, so I didn't want to have to buy them back, and I didn't. I'd rather just say I didn't have any taxable event because I didn't sell anything this year. I've only been buying.
You could sell them now, and then if they gain a lot this year, then you might not have to pay taxes.
Yeah. I mean, sell them and then buy them right back.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're just rolling through the chat here.
Yeah, Gary, Ironfish, no, this is the second time I've seen it, so I can take this one. I put up a tutorial in last Friday's update for people who can't run a node on their computer for whatever reason. So if you check that out, Gary, you'll be able to find it's just a service that allows you to run a node elsewhere. I think you have to pay for it, but I don't think it's that much. But if you're having trouble doing it on your own, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, a lot of Ironfish questions.
Ironfish is very exciting in part because it's the one token we recommend, which is not yet a token. So there's various opportunities to get in early.
All right, so I am out of questions here on this side of things on my spreadsheet. We'll scroll through the chat here. If you have questions, just put them in the chat, any as specifically as you can. Willis, Willis is in my lazy group. We could start our own little subset of ESC, lazy crypto investors. Yeah, what do people use for tracking their purchases and sales? I know, Chris, you've used the coin tracker, right? That's what you use?
Yeah, cointracker.io, and you can put in basically all of there are a couple of wallets that it doesn't track, but I think over 90% of the wallets in crypto they'll track, including like NFTs and more obscure stuff.
Okay. All right, that's good. Let's see. Jared says, so we're sitting here at losses and you're selling without informing us, but telling us to hold for the long haul. No, we're not selling. James is a net buyer.
Yeah, no, I am. I'm not selling at all. I mentioned selling for tax purposes, but then I bought back, and in some cases I bought back more. So I'm not a seller of any crypto. I wrote last year I sold my Bitcoin.
Yeah,
but I was buying Ethereum.
Let's see. Likelihood of AMP to get back up to 10 cents or higher. I know that's one that we've been talking about. We talked about last week.
Yeah, that's one of our most recent recommendations. Yeah, we think all-time high and greater for AMP. Absolutely.
Let's see.
It's interesting, like when there's a bear market, there's a lot more news than when there's a bull market. And right now, I kind of think we've been in a bull market for crypto since about early November, since FTX, when the FTX lows. And since then, things have been rebounding pretty big. You know, what we're waiting for now is the next set of upgrades on Ethereum. And I think that'll be another move higher for the markets. And I don't really see anything to kind of slow it down. Like FTX was the worst news possible. The Fed is not raising rates as fast as they were. They'll still raise rates a couple more times, but it's not as bad as it was. And eventually they're going to start cutting. The $1 trillion spending bill has yet to drop money on the economy. But when that does, it's going to drive stocks and crypto up. And, each coin doesn't really release press releases. It's hard to find the news unless, we go to conferences occasionally, but in between conferences, it's hard to find the latest news. But we're searching every day for new news and new tokens and so on.
Are there any big crypto conferences, this year that you guys are planning on going to or would like to go to?
Yeah, I'm actually going to ETH Denver in less than a month. So
that's great. And then Consensus is various conferences, and
I think which one is that? The one in Austin, is that Consensus? Or is that
I forget.
Yeah, there's tons that I want to check out this year.
Who's headlining? Do you know off the top of your head in Denver? What's going on?
I'm sure Vitalik Buterin's going to be there. I'm actually working. I'm going to be working there with them. So I'll get a little behind the scenes
Oh, nice.
action
That's great.
to write about. Yeah, it's obviously it's focused mainly on Ethereum, but it's the biggest Ethereum conference. It's been going on for a long time. I think almost a decade now, for almost as long as Ethereum's been live. So I guess not that long, but yeah. Yeah, there's tons of stuff. There's a build-a-thon in the first week, so there will be a lot of developers there working on stuff. So that'll be good for our purposes as well.
Nice. That's cool. So what are you going to be doing there? I mean, other than working?
Wherever they place me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told them I can do a couple hours a week for that week.
Yeah.
Every day. So wherever they need help, I guess. Hopefully not the mascot. That was an option, and I did not check that box.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Wow. That's cool. And that one's in, when did you say that? You said that's next month? Or
It's technically it happens from the 24th to the 5th.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But the first week is like it's not actually the conference, it's just like a hackathon.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll get all of that, but I want to get the tail end at least.
Okay.
Jeff asks about, is anyone close to becoming a Bitcoin maximalist? And a Bitcoin maximalist basically means Bitcoin is the only token that's going to survive, because Bitcoin plus the Lightning Network can essentially do all the functionality of all the other tokens. And I would say I am definitely not a Bitcoin maximalist, because yes, it's true that Bitcoin plus the Lightning Network can simulate every other, or can create every other token or every other use case. Essentially, Ethereum has proven to be better than Bitcoin at doing that. And that train has left the station. And I don't think there's any hope that Bitcoin's, if anything, I'm a little bit nervous Bitcoin will not keep pace with Ethereum over the next few years, but we'll see. I still think Bitcoin's the biggest and it's the winner, but it's certainly not the most sophisticated token, even as a currency. So I'm definitely not a maximalist. But there are some very smart people like Michael Saylor who are Bitcoin maximalists.
Yeah, Kathy Wood had just raised up her, I think you guys actually, I read it from your writings, but raised up her, what she thinks Bitcoin's going to go to.
Yeah, $1.5 million.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. Did she put time frames on that stuff when she makes those kind of predictions, or is it just kind of like this is where it's headed?
I think she said by 2030.
2030?
Yeah, that's what she said before, but I think it was 1 million by 2030. So
Yeah.
she's raised it.
Well,
Oh,
when she said Bitcoin
like-
would hit, when she said Bitcoin would hit 1 million by 2030, she also said Ethereum will hit 180,000 by 2030. So I'm curious if she's up to her Ethereum recommendation.
Yeah.
And 180,000 could be conservative on Ethereum.
Well, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, it was 1 million. That was last year. That was pre-inflationary numbers. Now it's a lot higher. So she's got to boost that number a little bit. Let's see. Rick is willing to be the Altucher mascot. So if we ever wanted to have an Altucher mascot in our business, we could just reach out to Rick.
What would the mascot be?
Well, it's got to have big hair and a Superman shirt. That's all I know. Right?
Superman. Oh yeah, Lulu. I got to get Lulu up here at some point.
Yeah. It's been a long time since.
Yeah, it has been a while.
Yeah, I was watching Lulu this weekend because Robin was out of town.
Oh, really?
And someone asked if we keep in touch with George Gilder. Yeah, we talk to George Gilder all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, George, this is now public knowledge. George changed publishers actually this month. So we're in the process of supporting the new publisher over at Eagle Publishing with Mark Skousen. So he and the whole team are going over there. If you're a Gilder reader, which I know a lot of people on this call have asked a lot about, Gilder ideas and thoughts, and certainly with BSV, one of the cryptos that George is excited by. You'll continue to get your subscriptions just as you have. That was one of the deals that we worked out to make sure that all the George Gilder customers got exactly what they were promised. So you should be, if you haven't already, in the next couple of days. We're having a little trouble with the data transfers and stuff like that, but in the next couple of days, you should be hearing from that new publisher. His name's Roger Mikowski, and it's Eagle Publishing. And they'll be in touch with usernames and passwords and all that. So
who owns Eagle Publishing?
Salem Group. It's a corporate, relatively big corporate publisher, I believe. Eagle's been around for a long time. Ever since I've been in this business, Eagle Publishing, Regnery Books is part of. That's all their sister companies. They've been around for decades. It's very much bittersweet for us here as well. I brought George on back in 2018 or 2019, I think it was. James,
after seeing him on my podcast, I introduced you to.
Yeah, so George went on James's podcast to do a book, to talk about his book. And I asked James if I could go up and introduce myself to him. And I took George out to dinner after the talk and after the podcast. And we worked out a deal together. And I was super excited. I've watched George from the late 90s into the early 2000s. I was a reader of him back then. And so to have a guy like that in our business was a really, really big deal. But things change, as we all know, and we change right along with them. So, but if you are a reader of George, you'll be getting an email from the publisher announcing any changes and things like that, customer service numbers, websites, usernames, and passwords, and that sort of thing. So you won't be empty-handed. So I'm just now looking through the chat here. BSV was one of the coins that George really liked after sitting down with Craig Wright at a conference a couple of years ago. And he thought BSV might be a big coin, but he's going to take that recommendation obviously with him over to Eagle Publishing.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we do not recommend BSV. This is where George and I agreed on the importance of crypto, but he was a little bit of a Bitcoin maximalist through BSV, which I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay, so I got kind of lost in these comments here, but yeah, very it is bittersweet for us. But George is great, and one of the smartest guys. I'll tell you a quick funny story before we wrap up here. But when we first brought George on and we were talking about ideas, and we launched a service called Gilder Moonshots, and we offered a lifetime subscription along as an upgrade. If someone wanted to get a lifetime of whatever George publishes, they could do it for one low price. And we started getting emails about, is it our lifetime or is it George's lifetime? And I'm like, I'm 54. And I'm like, I bet there's a chance, and probably more than an insignificant chance, that George outlives me. I mean, the guy runs 5 miles a day. He does 10 milers all the time. He's in very good shape, and he has a lot of longevity in his family. His mother lived to be 102 or something. So
really, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And anyway, so yeah, we're kind of bummed that George left, but it is what it is. As a reader, you guys are all going to be taken care of. So anyway, kind of got off a little sidetrack there, but it's important to cover that stuff when people ask about it. So James, anything you want to cover before we wrap up for today?
No, again, I think the key is we're doing a lot of research. We're constantly looking at the coins to recommend and what the next trends are. And the whole point of having a newsletter is enjoy your lives and you be thankful now things are moving up that we've been recommending for the past year. And we enjoy doing this, and we'll keep providing more recommendations as we see them. And hopefully, everybody makes a lot of money.
Yep, that's the goal here. Having guys like you on our side really takes a lot of the angst and frustration, I think, out of investing in a very complicated asset class right now. And eventually this can become less complicated over time, just like, buying stocks in the early 1900s was probably very difficult. And it's gotten a lot easier over time. So hopefully we won't have to wait 80 years, but anyway.
No, things are faster now.
Yeah.
I mean, particularly again, you have like countries setting up major banking systems to deal with crypto. Things are going to be a lot faster.
Yeah. Chris, anything on your side before we wrap up?
No, not really. Just expect a recommendation or two by the end of the month, and that's basically it.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining us. Yes, James, have a good trip to Dubai. Just let us know if you're.
Yeah, if I go, I mean, I would say it's 60-40 I'm going, but I'll find out in the next few days.
Okay. And we may want to send someone with you just to kind of get video and talk about ideas and crypto and stuff like that, but we'll see how that pans out.
Sure.
All right. So because of James being out next week, I think, Chris, you and I are going to have to carry the water as it were, as well as we can while Superman is off, saving the world.
Got to save the world.
Save the world. All right. Well, thank you all. There is a rebroadcast. Just check the website. You'll see the weekly crypto mastermind call on the website. It'll be posted likely tomorrow, and you can get the full recording if you happen to miss it. So thank you all again, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Bye, everybody.